It's 2 a.m. The house is completely silent. You quietly slip out of bed, your bare feet hitting the cold hallway floor. Try your absolute best not to wake anyone up. You make it to the bathroom, step inside, and gently pull the door shut. But before it latches, there's a soft thud of paws. A wet nose nudges the wood. The door swings open, and in walks your dog. They don't look at you. Instead, they turn around, sit squarely on the bath mat with their back to you, and stare intently out into the dark hallway. You probably think your dog follows you into the bathroom because they're clingy. You assume it's a severe case of fear of missing out. Or perhaps they suffer from underlying separation anxiety and simply can't bear to be away from you for 3 minutes. But behavioral neuroscience tells a completely different story. What your dog is doing right now is one of the most complex expressions of reciprocal survival and cross-species loyalty ever discovered. And most owners have absolutely no idea. Let's start with the separation anxiety theory, because it sounds reasonable on the surface. If a creature loves you, they want to be near you. But here's the problem with that logic. If your dog was purely acting out of needy, anxious attachment, they would be demanding your direct attention. They would be whining, pacing, or actively nudging your hand for pets. But think about their posture when they follow you to the bathroom. More often than not, they aren't looking at you. They are facing the door. They are positioning themselves between you and the primary entrance. Furthermore, look at the options your pet has at 2 a.m. They could be curled up in a plush orthopedic dog bed. They could be stretched out on the warm spot you just vacated under the down comforter. They could be sleeping near the radiator. So why do they keep choosing you, sitting on a cold tile floor in a cramped space? The answer goes back to the wild. In nature, the act of elimination is an incredibly vulnerable state. An animal stopping to relieve themselves is momentarily distracted, physically compromised, and unable to flee quickly. When your dog follows you into the bathroom, they aren't acting out of neediness. They recognize that your guard is down. They are instinctively deploying themselves as your sentry. They are guarding you. To really understand the gravity of this, we have to look at how dogs view their relationship with you. In 2013, researchers at the University of Veterinary Medicine, Vienna, led by Dr. Lisa Horn, published a landmark study investigating the canine-human bond. They were looking for something called the secure base effect, a phenomenon previously only recognized in human infants. They placed dogs in a room with interactive toys to see how well they would problem solve. When the owner was absent, the dogs lost interest. But the findings were shocking. When the owner was present and simply sitting quietly, the dogs were 61% more likely to actively interact, play, and solve puzzles. The human acted as a psychological anchor, a secure base. But the canine-human bond is not a one-way street. It is deeply reciprocal. Dogs don't just use us as a secure base. Their evolutionary programming drives them to act as a secure base for us. When your dog forces their way into the bathroom and sits at your feet, they are performing the single most fundamental behavior in attachment psychology. They are engaging in mutual caregiving. They recognize a moment of physical vulnerability, and they are stepping in to provide security. They're not being annoying. They're not being overly dependent. They're telling you you're their pack, and your physical safety is their absolute highest priority. But here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just psychology, it's chemistry. Let's look at a groundbreaking 2015 study published in the journal Science by a research team at Asabu University in Japan. Dr. Takefumi Kikusui and his team mapped the neurochemical exchange that happens between dogs and humans. They discovered the now famous oxytocin gaze positive loop. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone or bonding hormone. It's the exact same neurochemical that floods a mother's brain when she nurses her newborn child. The Asabu study found that when dogs and humans interact, and specifically when dogs engage in protective, proximity-seeking behaviors toward their humans, both species experience a massive spike in oxytocin. But it goes deeper. When your dog positions themselves as your guardian in the bathroom, feeling they're successfully doing their job to protect you, it actively suppresses their cortisol levels. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. By guarding you, your dog is literally self-medicating their own nervous system. If you look at wolves raised by humans from birth, they do not show this specific behavior. A captive wolf will not follow a human into a vulnerable space to stand guard. Their self-preservation instincts remain independent, and while cats might follow you to the bathroom, feline behavioral science shows it is often driven by resource opportunism, territorial patrolling, or the desire for a captive audience. This specific, mutual chemical feedback loop co-evolved specifically between dogs and humans over thousands of years. Now, think about what happens over a few minutes of this behavior. Your dog leans their warm weight against your leg. That physical contact amplifies the oxytocin release in both of your brains, simultaneously dropping your heart rate and theirs. It is a biological masterpiece. You might be wondering, when did this behavior start? How did a wolf turn into a bathroom bodyguard? The answer is basically from the beginning. We have to take you back over 15,000 years, long before agriculture, before cities, and before the written word. During the Upper Paleolithic era, humans and the ancestors of modern dogs forged an alliance around the campfire. We often think of early dogs strictly as hunting tools, but archaeological evidence tells a much more intimate story. Consider the Bonn Castle dog burial, discovered in Germany and dated to roughly 14,200 years ago. Here, an adult man, a woman, and a young dog were buried together. Paleopathology revealed the dog had survived multiple bouts of severe illness before its death, meaning the humans had meticulously cared for it. These weren't just working animals. They were family, and their primary job in the dark, terrifying prehistoric night was to serve as an early warning system. They watched our backs while we slept and while we eliminated our two most vulnerable states. Today, we have genetic evidence backing this up. Domestic dogs carry unique genetic insertions on chromosome 6, specifically genes related to Williams-Beuren syndrome in humans, which is characterized by extreme hypersociability and intense drive for physical proximity. Your dog isn't doing something unusual when they push that bathroom door open. They're doing something that's been genetically selected for across 15 millennia. Now, I want to tell you about a study that nobody talks about because the finding seems impossible at first. In 2018, researchers at Canisius College investigated how pets impact human routines, privacy, and sleep. Logically, having an animal constantly following you around, invading your privacy in the bathroom, or taking up space in your bed should be incredibly frustrating. The data showed that, yes, roughly 35% of people admitted their dogs cause minor physical disruptions to their space. And yet, almost every single participant reported feeling an overwhelming, positive sense of comfort, security, and psychological ease. How is that possible? How does an invasion of modern privacy result in psychological peace? Because our modern concept of privacy is a very recent invention. For most of human history, privacy meant isolation, and isolation meant death. Our brains are hardwired to feel anxious when we are alone and vulnerable. Having a trusted apex predator standing watch over you overrides the minor annoyance of a crowded bathroom. Maybe your dog isn't ruining your privacy. Maybe they're restoring something more ancient than indoor plumbing, the deep ancestral comfort of community survival. And this is where it gets deep. If you need proof that you and your dog operate as a single survival unit, look at the research from Linköping University in Sweden. Between 2019 and 2023, researchers studied a biological marker called heart rate variability, HRV, alongside long-term cortisol, levels measured in both dog hair and human hair. They wanted to see how the stress and relaxation states of dogs and owners interacted over time. What they found was extraordinary. Dogs and their owners showed highly correlated biological patterns. When the human's baseline stress dropped, the dog's dropped. When the human felt secure, the dog's nervous system reflected it. Their nervous systems were completely in sync. When they tested strangers or unfamiliar human-dog pairs in close proximity, there was zero synchronization. This only happens within bonded pairs. This means that when your dog follows you into the bathroom, senses your vulnerability, and sits down to guard you, it isn't just a psychological comfort. It's a neurological event. Their presence is actively communicating with your autonomic nervous system, signaling that the perimeter is secure, allowing both of you to physically relax. There's one last thing I need to tell you, and it might be the most important part of this video. If your dog has been religiously following you into the bathroom for months or years, acting as your loyal shadow, and one day they suddenly stop. Don't brush it off. Dogs are profound creatures of habit. When a deeply established, genetically ingrained behavior disappears overnight, there's always a reason. Sometimes it's environmental. A new pet, a new person in the house, or a major schedule change has thrown off their routine. But very often, it is the first subtle sign of physical pain. A dog suffering from early-stage arthritis might find it too painful to jump up from their bed every time you walk down the hall, long before you ever notice them limping. It can also be a sign of cognitive decline. Statistics show that canine cognitive dysfunction, essentially dog dementia, affects up to 68% of dogs by the age of 15. Losing track of their owner or forgetting their routine jobs, like guarding the bathroom, is a major red flag. Your dog doesn't have language. Behavior is the only way they can tell you something is wrong. Pay attention to the silence just as much as you pay attention to the bark. So the next time you wake up at 2 a.m., the house is freezing and you're sitting on the toilet in the dark, and suddenly a wet nose pushes the door open. The next time an 80-pound dog squeezes into the room, takes up exactly 80% of the available floor space, turns their back to you, and settles against your leg, remember what's actually happening. You are witnessing 15,000 years of evolution. You are feeling the effects of a neurochemical loop that no other species on Earth shares with us. You are participating in an attachment system built to mirror the profound bond between a parent and a child, all pointed at one thing. Guarding you in your most vulnerable moments is their ultimate act of love. Sleeping beside you or sitting guard at your feet is the safest place in their world. And honestly, the science suggests it might be doing something incredibly healing for you, too. If this changed how you see your dog, subscribe to this channel and drop a comment below. I want to know where your dog sits when they follow you to the bathroom. Are they a foot leaner, or do they sit squarely in the doorway? And if you want to understand why your dog intensely stares right back at you when they're the ones in a bathroom in a yard, that's the next video on your screen. And the science behind it is even stranger than you'd expect. Click here to watch it, and I'll see you there.